it's been so long since my last YouTube video. I'd planned on making them more regularly, but unfortunately I got really sick this summer and wasn't able to do anything really other than get out of bed to feed my animals and get back into bed. So I decided to make another one now, and I'm going to try and do them much more regularly if I can, at least once a week, possibly more often than that, but we'll have to see what happens and how many ideas I have for different videos and things. So I apologize in advance for a couple things in this video. The lighting is not very good. I need to kind of set up a better workstation to film these videos. For right now, I'm just in my reptile room. You can see a lot of my animals back here. But I need to see if I can get better lighting. And also, I'm sorry if it's kind of loud. It's about 90 degrees in here right now in my house. So I have a bunch of fans going, and that's why I'm all sweaty and red. So I wanted to talk to you guys today about autotomy. I posted a video on my Instagram and Facebook of a tail that my crested gecko had dropped this week. And a lot of people new to the industry, or people who don't have geckos, or people who aren't in the industry at all, saw the video and thought it was crazy and had lots of questions, and so I thought I would kind of address some things in this video, talk about it a little bit, and then at the end of the video I will attach some clips of after his tail dropped. So autotomy is when a animal drops its tail. Or I'm sorry, autotomy means when an animal drops a body part. Caudal autotomy is when they drop their tail. So that's what happened in the case of my lizard, Roscoe. He dropped his tail. And it usually happens for one main reason, is when the animal feels like it's being attacked, it drops its tail so that way the predator will get distracted by the wiggling tail on the ground, and it gives the animal a chance to get away. So it wiggles for quite a long time in my experience. I've seen this happen a few times. I think the first one I witnessed moved for like close to 30 minutes afterwards. It was really crazy. At first, when it first drops, it wiggles really quickly, obviously to distract the predator, and then it slows down as time goes on, but it does continue to move for a long time. So it's definitely a defense mechanism. There are some animals in captivity that you see them drop their tails much more frequently than other species. For example, crested geckos. That's who crested geckos who dropped his tail this week for me. I think cresties are the only species that I own that have dropped their tails for me. I take that back. I'm sorry. I had a day gecko who also dropped her tail once. But most geckos can drop their tails. Leopard geckos drop their tails sometimes too. That's definitely much more rare. But it does happen sometimes. Gargoyle geckos, I mean really most geckos that you see in captivity can drop their tails. The unique thing, however, about crested geckos is once they drop their tail, they don't regrow it. Usually animals will regrow their tail once they drop it. Crested geckos do not. I know some scientists have kind of speculated on the reasoning for that, and from my understanding, most of the wild crested geckos in New Caledonia, the adults are tailless, so I'm sure there's probably some reason for it. They say that maybe it's easier for the animals to get around. Most of my animals still have their tails. A few of my offspring I produced last year don't, because they were housed together in small groups, and when they got bigger they kind of started fighting, so it was definitely my error. In the case of Roscoe, who dropped his tail this week, I had been rearranging my reptile room, and as you can see behind me, I have this awesome shelving unit. You can't even see the whole thing here, but there's a bunch. So I was rearranging and adding more shelving, and it was very loud. The tanks were moving a lot, and most of the animals were out of the room, but some of them were still in here, and Roscoe was in here. And so afterwards I had them all set up, and I thought they were okay, and I have very hard water, so we get a lot of mineral stains on, I get a lot of mineral stains on my cages. So I had taken a razor blade and I was cleaning all of the glass off because I wanted it to look nice and shiny and perfect. And I didn't realize that as I was scraping the glass, this is all one unit. It's all the shelves are attached to each other. And I think I was slightly shaking the whole entire unit as I was doing each enclosure. So I was working my way down and got to Roscoe's enclosure, and he was kind of freaking out a little bit when I walked up. I could see him running around, so I opened the door to see if I can calm him down, and he ran out, jumped into my lap, and when I put my hand down to grab him, he dropped his tail on me. It was very heartbreaking because I felt terrible that he was so stressed. That is probably the first time I've ever really had one of my geckos drop their tails from stress. Like I said, I think the babies who dropped their tails were just fighting because they were housed together. And then I do have one adult female. She's actually in this vivarium right here, who I forced her to drop her tail when she was younger because she was developing floppy tail syndrome. I purchased her from a breeder, and I'm not really sure what the situation was. She seemed fine when I got her, but very shortly after I brought her home, I realized that she was developing, there's a bug, developing floppy tail syndrome, and I had purchased her with specific breeding plans in mind, and also it can damage their hips and cause issues for them. So I made the decision to force her to drop her tail, which was not easy. It took a very long time and was very difficult. She did not want to drop her tail. But Roscoe was definitely the first one who just kind of panicked over, something small and dropped his tail. So I can go ahead and get him and show you what he looks like without his tail, and then I can post some pictures on this video of him before he drops his tail. He will not regrow it, so crested geckos, again, do not regrow their tails. As far as I know, it doesn't really hurt them. I get that question a lot. Does it hurt them? I don't think it does. The first time I witnessed a crestie dropping their tail, it was very quick. It just kind of fell off. There was no blood or anything. When Roscoe dropped his tail, as you'll see in the video, it fell on the floor and it was bleeding a little bit. But he didn't really seem to be in pain. I picked him up after he dropped it to calm him down, and he kind of curled up in my hand and was okay. It heals very quickly. I don't think there's really a risk of infection. So I keep all of my arboreal geckos on bioactive substrates. I don't ever feel the need to remove them from that when they drop their tails. I know some people get very nervous and want to put them in a sterile environment, but you have to remember this is a very common practice out in the wild, and obviously they're in bioactive environment in the wilds without any issues. So I don't really do anything special after they drop their tail, except for, if they seem stressed, you can kind of leave them alone for a little bit, but I don't think there's any treatment or anything that needs to be done to prevent any issues, because there really isn't going to be any. So I'm going to go ahead and grab him right now so you guys can see him. It's been 2 days since he dropped his tail, so you'll see it is already starting to heal, and again, it's not going to grow back. Now, some of the other species, like their relatives, the gargoyle geckos, those do regrow their tails. These guys don't. So I'll go ahead and grab him so you can see it, and then I'm going to post the video of it wiggling afterwards. And if you guys have any questions or anything, go ahead and just leave me some comments or comment on my Facebook or Instagram, and I'll be more than happy to answer questions for you. Also, if you're not already following me, you can find me on Instagram at ENKExotics. And also, I have some exciting news. I have had a website for quite some time, but it's been offline, and so I'm going to try and have it done in the next couple of weeks. So my goal is to have it up and running and live by September 20th, which is a Sunday. So that's just ENKExotics.com. Go ahead and bookmark it now so you can see it when it's all done. And I did hatch out a bunch of geckos this year, and some of them will be for sale shortly. So I'll go ahead and be posting pictures of the animals that might be available. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and let me know, and I hope that this video was informative for you. So here is Roscoe. After he dropped his tail, you can see it's kind of a little bit... Oh, where are you going, bud? It's kind of a little bit like scabbed up. It looks like he may have gotten some substrate on it, but again, that's not really any issue. You can see kind of just like, you'll see in the video that it kind of separates into almost like this flower. So it's like this part of his tail, this part of his body where it drops also kind of had that flower. So it twists and curls up and heals like that. But you can see he's doing fine. No issues, huh, Roscoe? Want to say hi to everybody? See, I just got a little scared with all the noise and moving, huh? Alright, and now I'll show you guys the video of his tail after it was dropped.
But it's a large crocodile, and it's going to take a long time. Relative to how long it normally takes, it's going to take a long time for this drug to actually take effect. First, he has to get the needle into the monster croc.